Chapter 1. The Sound of a Legion Defil Spector wasn't just a music producer. He was the producer who reshaped American pop culture from the inside out. In a world where songs were simple and predictable, Spector dreamed bigger. He imagined music not as a tune, but as an entire universe. Built what the world now calls the Wall of Sound. Dozens of instruments, layered upon each other, reverb bouncing like thunder, melodies weaving together like strings in a symphony. It wasn't just music, it was a sonic revolution. His fingerprints are on some of the most iconic hits ever recorded. The Ronettes, the Righteous Brothers, the Beatles, Tina Turner, the Ramones. Every studio he walked into became his kingdom. Every artist became part of his grand design to the outside world. Phil Spector was a genius, mysterious, brilliant, untouchable, but behind closed studio doors. Another version of Phil emerged, a version musicians whispered about in dim hallways, a version people avoided when he started drinking. Some called him controlling, others said paranoid. More than a few said violent, but the hits kept coming, and the darkness stayed hidden behind platinum records, at least for a while, because the line between genius and madness is thin, and for Phil Spector, that line was getting darker every year. Chapter 2. The man behind the WAL2. Understand the man Phil Spector became. You have to understand where he came from. His story begins with pain. When Phil was just 9 years old, his father took his own life, a tragedy that shattered him, a moment he would carry for the rest of his life. His mother moved him across the country to Los Angeles, to a small apartment, a new school, a new life. But for Phil, the loneliness never left. He wasn't popular. He wasn't athletic. He didn't fit in, but he had music. And in that music, he found power, even as a teenager. Students noticed something strange about him, a need for absolute control, a temper that could ignite without warning, a mind brilliant enough to create and unstable enough to destroy. As Spector rose to fame, so did the shadows inside him. By the 1980s and 90s, he became a recluse, rarely seen in public, living inside a mansion that looked more like a fortress, the infamous Pyrenees Castle. The mansion was filled with weapons, revolvers, shotguns, rifles, some displayed like decorations, others scattered around like forgotten objects. Security cameras lined the walls. Hallways were dim and narrow, doors locked automatically. Guests described the house as eerie, a place where silence echoed louder than footsteps. And then there were the gun stories. Artists came forward with chilling memories. Spector waving guns during recording sessions, pointing them at musicians who argued with him, using fear as a tool, just like he used reverb behind the wall of sound. There was a wall of madness, and eventually, everything inside that wall began to crack. Chapter 3. February 3rd, 2003. The night at the CAS Telit was a cool Sunday night in Los Angeles. Hollywood Boulevard was alive with music, neon lights, and strangers searching for dreams. Inside the House of Blues, 40-year-old actress Lana Clarkson was working a late shift as a VIP hostess. Lana was warm, charismatic, and respected. But Hollywood is a hard city. Dreams rise fast and fall even faster. She was rebuilding her career, taking new opportunities, waiting for her next big break. That night, Phil Spector walked into the club. He wore dark sunglasses, a long coat, and carried the peculiar energy that always surrounded him. A mix of mystery and danger. Security cameras recorded everything. Phil followed Lana, talked to her, insisted she have a drink with him, insisted again and again. Witnesses said Lana seemed uncomfortable but polite, professional, doing her job. Around 2 a.m., Phil and Lana walked out together and entered Spector's black limousine. The ride to the Pyrenees Castle was quiet, uneasy. They arrived just before 3 o'clock. A.m. No one knows what happened over the next 2 hours. Did they talk, drink, argue? Did Lana try to leave? Did Phil lose control? Only 2 people entered that castle that night, but only one ever came out alive. At exactly 5 a.m., Spector's driver heard a single, deafening gunshot. Moments later, Phil Spector stepped outside, pale, shaking, staring into the darkness, and he said a sentence America would never forget. I think I just killed somebody inside the foyer. Lana Clarkson sat slumped in a wooden chair, a gunshot wound to her mouth, blood on her hands, her purse still on her shoulder. Within minutes, Phil changed his story. She shot herself. It was an accident. It wasn't me, but the crime scene. The blood patterns, the trajectory told a very different story. A story Phil could never escape. Chapter 4, The Trial of a Music ICO. The trial was a media storm unlike anything seen before. Journalists packed the courtroom. Paparazzi camped outside day and night. Every news network wanted a piece of the story. When Phil Spector arrived for the hearings, wearing his now infamous explosive, frizzy hairstyle, cameras flashed like lightning. The prosecution built a chilling case. Phil Spector had a history of threatening women with guns. 5 women testified. He pointed a gun at me. He threatened to kill me. He wouldn't let me leave. The pattern was undeniable. The defense fought back hard. They said Lana was depressed. They said she acted impulsively. They called the death an accident. But science disagreed. There was no gunpowder on Lana's hands, but there was gunpowder on Spector's jacket. The bullet entered from an angle that made suicide nearly impossible. Still, the first trial ended in a mistrial. But in 2009, after a second, more powerful trial, justice was served. Phil Spector was found guilty of second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 19 years to life in prison. A music legend fell, and a family grieved the loss of a daughter. Never got to finish her story. Chapter 5, The Legacy of a Broken GNI. U.S. Phil Spector spent his final years behind bars. Far from the studios he once ruled, his health declined rapidly. He became frail, confused, a shadow of the man who once demanded perfection. In 2021, during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Phil Spector died in a prison hospital. To some, he remains a genius, a pioneer who changed the sound of music forever. To others, he is a symbol of power gone unchecked, a reminder of how fame can protect even the most dangerous people. The question remains, can you separate the art from the artist? Should you? Because sometimes the mind capable of creating beauty is the same mind capable of creating horror. Phil Spector built walls of sound. but he also built walls around his own darkness in the end. The story of Phil Spector is not just a crime story, it's a tragedy, a warning, a reminder that genius can lift you to brilliance and drag you into madness. Sometimes, the most talented people carry the darkest secrets, and sometimes those secrets destroy everything.